Hey, what's up guys? It's Clint Coons here, and in this video, I want to talk about the importance of asset protection for your self-directed IRA. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what inspired me to want to cut this video right here? Well, it has to do with the fact that so many investors don't understand the importance of asset protection when it comes to investing inside of a self-directed IRA or a solo 401k. In fact, most investors that I've talked to believe that the IRA or their 401k offers them asset protection. So why would you even consider using some of the same strategies we use to protect your residential real estate or your commercial real estate with an IRA because the IRA is protected? Well, nothing can be further from the truth. That is misinformation. You're deluding yourself if you don't think your IRA can be sued. And in fact, one of our clients recently learned this the hard way. As you can see here on the screen, I'm providing you a copy of the complaint that they were served with when someone injured themselves on a property that they own inside of their self-directed IRA. There was a guest there, they're walking defective stairways, and they hurt themselves when they fell. And so now who are they suing? They're suing the IRA. And as you can see on the screen, I've blacked out the client's name, but it shows their self-directed IRA here because they would serve the IRA trustee that actually holds the account on behalf of it. So what does that mean? So this individual, they had set up a self-directed IRA that it's set up here. Here's their IRA. And they own 10 properties inside of it, just like this. And they have cash sitting inside of there. Now the tenant actually hurt themselves right here on this one property. So what they're doing now is they're suing the IRA for recovery. And so when you sue the IRA, all of its assets are at risk from that potential lawsuit. And so when I talked to the client, I said, what is going on here? He's one of our titanium clients, so they can set up as many LLCs as they want. I'd created for them several different limited liability companies for the assets on the outside to protect their properties, of course, that were inside of there. But when it came to the IRA, you know what his response was? Well, I just figured that these were protected, and that's why I didn't go into this and get entities set up. So as you can see from this lawsuit, things like this do happen inside of your IRA. And if you're an IRA investor, the way you're going to go about protecting yourself is setting up separate LLCs for each of your properties that are held by your self-directed IRA or solo 401k. And so let's assume that this property right here is in Indiana. Indiana Limited Liability Company, Ohio LLC. And on the LLC itself, you're going to be the manager. Your IRA will be the member. Now, had this client set up an LLC for that particular property, then that lawsuit would not be served on the IRA custodian that's holding the account and title for that client. Instead, it would have been served on the limited liability company, and only the asset inside of that LLC would be at risk, not these other assets that he holds inside of his IRA. So that's one strategy to protect your IRA from these types of lawsuits. A second strategy might be if you're not comfortable setting up LLCs. Let's say someone tells you, oh, that's a prohibited transaction, which it's not, but you're concerned about that. Then what I would do is I would create multiple IRAs. So if I was using that strategy, I would have several different IRAs set up with only one property in that IRA. So now in this scenario, what would happen is if you get sued, they're going to sue this IRA right here. And these other ones, since they're separate IRAs with different account numbers, they're not going to be liable because only this property is titled into this particular IRA. These are separate. So that's one way you can do it without setting up the LLCs. But here's the problem with that as well that you may not realize. Let's assume that this injury over here, wrongful death for whatever reason. Maybe you didn't have a working smoke detector and this person died, right? So the family's suing, and they're suing you because he happens to be a graduate of MIT in spatial engineering, and he generates on average $1 million a year. And he was just renting right now as he was doing his fellowship or something on the side. So he sues this IRA for $1 million. Right? They come after this LLC for the damages of the lost one here, for wrongful death because you didn't have a working smoke detector. The value of this house is $250,000. and you have no other assets inside of your IRA, do you think you just go, I'm going to shut the IRA down and that lawsuit goes away? No. You see, an IRA offers you asset protection from this standpoint. You get sued, they can't come and take your IRA in 42 states, or 44, I forget. In about a handful of states, actually it's 8 to 10, I believe. Your IRA is not protected from your personal creditor. So when we talk about creditor protection, what we're meaning is you get sued. Say you're in a traffic accident and it's your fault, or you sign a contract and you default on the contract and you're being sued under that contract. In most instances, they can't touch your IRA assets. And if your IRA's held properties, they couldn't break into the IRA and get the property itself. But it doesn't work the opposite way. When the IRA gets sued, they can look through the IRA and go after the beneficiary. Nothing's stopping from that. The laws as they're written protect the assets from the IRA's owner's creditors, not the owner from the creditors of the IRA. So again, if you're thinking, well, Clint, I'll just do that strategy, not use the LLCs, you are putting yourself at risk, because when you use this strategy, if they were sued for $1 million here and there's $200,000 in equity, they aren't going to go beyond the LLC. All I'm going to do is dissolve it out, and away goes the remaining portion of that judgment. So you got to be careful on how you go about creating your asset protection for your IRA assets. Just make sure that you're using a plan, because it takes a lot of time to build up the value. And as I told this client, that has 10 properties inside of there, he said, it took you many years actually to get to this point. And by not using the asset protection now, you've just potentially jeopardized your retirement future with those funds. Hey guys, if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you want to set up a strategy session to discuss your situation, if you have a retirement account like this, be sure to go into the show notes where we have a link there for you where you can set up a session with an expert that can discuss with you how to create the best plan for your individualized investing situation. Take care.